the power of one.
Right.
Today, I'm going to be speaking with two dynamic women who are doing great things for the city of Philadelphia. Raquel Williams and Shara Howard. Welcome to the show. Raquel, we'll begin with you. Please tell me a little bit about yourself, how you began your radio career, and then Shara, we'll hear from you.
All right. Well, thank you. First of all, thanks for having Bridging Philly on this show today. We appreciate the invite. And I have to say, I've been in Philadelphia reporting for about 9 months now, so it has been a whirlwind. Philadelphia is exciting. It is full of everything, arts, culture, lots of news, never a dull moment. I started my career, I'm just gonna age myself. I started my career almost 30 years ago. I'm from North Jersey originally, from Bergen County, and I fell in love with radio in college at Fairleigh Dickinson University way back when. And so it just, ever since I stepped into the college radio realm, I've always stepped into radio stations. That's just where I've always been. My track was always TV and print journalism, but I went right into radio. So yeah, as I started my career in Sussex County, actually, at a small station there. Then I made some transitions into a station in Central Jersey, some stints in New York, mostly in New Jersey. And then this is my first stint in Philadelphia. And I knew that I was going to step in the city of brotherly love at some point, and the opportunity came up, and I'm pleased as punch to be here.
Wonderful. Shara?
Yes. Well, I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. Mother's from North Philly. My father's from West Philly, the Montagues and the Capulets. So I've always had a very close connection to the communities that I've lived in. I've lived all throughout Philadelphia, and the best thing that I could think of was to be able to be a voice for some people that I really know and families that I know that really deserve to be heard. And that's what I wanted to do. And somehow I found my way to radio. I started out in television. I was at Channel 6 and then at Channel 3. And then when I was at Channel 3, I saw the in-depth way in which radio could be personal and could be exact and be accurate and still be that fourth estate. I really do believe in the fourth estate and holding people in power accountable, as well as giving the voice to the people that need it on the ground. So boots on the ground, Philadelphia is the best way to do it and the best place to do it. And what better way and vehicle than radio?
Okay. Now, Raquel, I would see you often at press conferences for the DA's office, and that's how we met. How do you know, or what stories spark your interest for you to cover them?
Well, as a community impact reporter, I'm most interested in the stories that are impacting the community. And now that sounds pretty simple and pretty straightforward based on the title, of course. But, we all work together with how we cover Philadelphia. It's interesting because, I don't do the nuts and bolts of the stories, the crime stories. We have our crime and justice reporter that will tell you what happened, when did it happen, who's being charged, X, Y, Z. And then I kind of pick up, how's the community feeling? How is this affecting the community? Who's grieving? How are they handling it? Of course, speaking with you and the victims and, talking about dealing with grief and things of that nature. So I come in after the fact, almost to say, and sometimes I come in proactively to talk about what are we doing to end this, or what are we doing to try to stave, this problem. So anything that impacts the community, and you can probably say that all news does, but anything that really has a community impact where it is, the community needs a voice. Based on something that has happened in the community. Those are the issues that I'm attracted to, whether it's, how are people affording to cool their homes, or how are people dealing with grief, or which schools are you going to send your child to, all these different things that affect me. That's really how I look at it. How would it affect me? How would I look at it? Then it must affect somebody in the community. And so I kind of put myself into what would I think of that, or what would I like to say, or if I was in this community, what would I need? And I kind of do that. And that's kind of how I kind of put those stories together. But those are the stories that affect us are the stories that I'm really attracted to.
So tell me about Bridging Philly and how both of you came together to make this difference in the city of Philadelphia?
Yeah, Bridging Philly, and Shara, hop on in here. Bridging Philly, originally when I came on board 9 months ago, the show was called Flashpoint with the fabulous Cherry Gregg. And then, we started to talk, the brand manager and we started to talk about the fact that we kind of want to shake it up and do something different, holding true the values of Flashpoint, but just doing it in a different way and just giving it a new spin. And the way we did that is instead of having one host, we have 3 hosts of the show. And so it's myself during the panel discussion. And then, of course, Shara Howard does our newsmaker, and Antoinette Lee, who is due to have a baby any minute. She does our Philly Rising change maker each week. And so we put those 3 segments together, and it's just a nice cohesive way of, kind of presenting the show to the community. It is produced by our coordinating producer, Arian Fulcher, who couldn't be with us, but we couldn't really do it without her. She's the glue that holds it all together. But I'm glad that we're doing it this way. And Shara and Antoinette and I and Arian, we work very well together. And Shara she's also the glue that holds it all together.
And I could say that about you. I mean, such a wonderful change of not only pace and energy, but just insight. I mean, Racquel really just offers this human aspect to it that I think we can all appreciate, we can all relate to.
We all do. We all bring something different to the table. We bring our experiences to the table. You're talking about 3 Black women who are hosting a program in Philadelphia produced by a Black woman. And, we all have similar things, but then we all have things that are different. I'm a mom of 2. I have a teenager and a little young one, 2 girls. And I see things from certain perspectives. And, of course, Shara has her experience and she brings that. And we all bring kind of what we've experienced to the table. And we come up with the different topics for the show. And it's just great. It's just great working with everyone.
We really try to make it as honest and as real as possible. Sure. Authenticity is necessary because people need to be able to relate to us. And we have a city that is looking to us, Philadelphia, and the surrounding areas. We have a high population of women and women of color. So we not only want to speak to them, but we want to bridge these communities.
Right.
I think our voices really allow that, and not only allow it, but encourage it.
I agree. And I know gun violence is the topic of many of the conversations. And as you said, to have that real conversation, sometimes people want to have the cute conversation. People want to have the conversation where we're not really talking about what a solution can be. We're not really talking about what the problems are that a lot of us are facing as African Americans, and then we dance around these issues. So I think it's really important to have that raw conversation. I think it's really important to have those raw topics and talk about them, because that's how you engage people. They know you're genuine and they know that you really want to help them. So with Bridging Philly and the great topics that you cover, do you offer resources for those who may be in need, resources for those who may have been affected by gun violence or violence as a whole?
Yeah, I can tell you that from my perspective, I learn about resources, and what I find myself doing is joining people together. I'll talk with someone who's trying to accomplish something in one community and talk with someone that has a similar idea. And I go, you know what, you should talk with Mr. So-and-so because he's trying to do the same model in his community. So I find that I share a lot of information with the people that I come across and I interview and I talk with, because the struggles and the issues are the same in every community and every corner that you go to. And so, yeah, we are able to provide the resources that we're getting from people that we interview, and we're able to share among different people that are doing grassroots efforts in the community. So, so they know that they also have someone that they can lean on too, as well. You're talking about bridging Philadelphia. So we're talking about Philadelphia is so very segregated. All right. So you have issues that are in the Black community, or you have issues that are in another community. You have issues that are in our little little tiny communities, we can learn from each other. We can learn and get resources from each other. And I think that, the more that people are scared to go on this side of Broad Street, on the other side of Broad Street, we learn that people want people to come to their sides of the neighborhood. They want that integration. They want people to get to know each other on both sides of the tracks. So it's interesting where I talk to people and they go, wow, these people are scared to come here. I wish they'd come here and get to know us more. And I'll hear the same thing on the other side. So we're trying to, when we say bridging that gap, that's really what we're trying to do. And it's really just about sharing information about different communities, different cultures. And you find that we pretty much all have the same struggles. They just may look a little different, but we have more in common than not.
Well said. Well said. I would agree. There are so many things organically that happen when we're interviewing. And when we are having these conversations, whether it be a panel, whether it be a one-on-one newsmaker or the Rising Philly, I love Antoinette because a lot of what she does, she really is able to, at the end of the show, kind of round it all out and say, and this is the bright side of what's going on. So everyone that we interview offers something integral to the conversation. And in that, naturally, is a resource. Because now we're not only showing you that they exist and what they're doing, but we always share, okay, this is what they're doing next, and this is how you can get involved.
Right. And those conversations that you were talking about, they're not cute conversations all the time, not at all. And, sometimes we have to leave some things on the cutting room floor because some things, we talk to people, there are tears, people are crying, people are grieving, people are, they have outbursts, they're upset. And when we come to them with that microphone, they let it all out because they're like, okay, here, let us tell you what's happening right here. Here's what's going on. And we don't want this anymore. So these are not cute conversations, not by any stretch of the imagination. And that's not what we want to do. That's not what we're here for. We're here to get the real issues in the community out for people to understand. And then for people to say, you know what, I can help them with that. Let me offer this resource and let me offer myself for X, Y, or Z. Yeah, those conversations. I know you have them too, Shara.
Yeah, the hard conversations are the bridge.
Yeah.
Those are the bridges. And when we're bold, we encourage other people to be bold. When we don't hide from the topics, when we don't hide from the tears, the anger, and often what comes after, because people don't follow through all the time. Our show is about following through and showing you what happens after all of the outbursts, what happens after the initial strike. Yeah. We're about how do we come back together and figure out how to prevent this. It's preemptive, but it's also preventative.
And Bridging Philly is really an extension of our reporting. Our reporting, you get a little slice, you get a minute and a half or whatever of the information that we can bring you in the news cycle. And then on Bridging Philly, we can really take a deeper dive and sit for a half an hour and really get into the nuts and bolts of what's going on and how people are feeling and how can we heal and the like.
Yeah, you got to bring the emotions to the top so that you can actually figure out, okay, now where do we go? What do we do?
And Shara is so good at that.
Let's talk about youth today. So the youth are a little different than when we were coming up. How do you reach the youth with Bridging Philly? And I think they're faced with different issues like we were faced with when we were coming up. Bullying is different. They have the internet and it's just different all the way around. How do you reach the youth that are probably forced into gangs and they don't want to be? How do you reach the youth that is being bullied and they actually consider suicide? How do you reach that youth that was affected by gun violence, lost their mother or their father? How does Bridging Philly, how do you provide aid to the youth?
We talk to them. And we allow what their raw feelings and their raw fears, we allow them to express it, and then we figure out together, okay, how do we do this? Prime example, we had a gentleman, his name was, as in one of the newsmakers not too long ago, his name was Isaiah Harris. And Isaiah spoke about not only how many people he'd lost in his life over the past couple of years, but how difficult it was to be raised in North Philly and then Germantown. What that transition was and how he not only avoided it, but how important mentors were to him and how he planned on being a mentor because he got the benefit of having someone value him and tell him that not only is he capable, but I'm going to give you a roadmap. So he went from living in North Philadelphia and dodging bullets at his corner to moving to Germantown and becoming he's a barber. And he found his own way. And he said, I don't need to be a basketball player, even though I play basketball, but I don't need to be a pro. I can be a barber and I can be a businessman and I could work the market. I don't know how this is going to play out in my life, but I have options. And in sharing his story, there's someone out there who not only heard that as a child, but now maybe they can grow into a young man who has options.
Yeah, when we are able to engage with the youth, I find it really refreshing. And a lot of people who know my reporting at this point knows if I'm talking to the kids, they're going to be front and center in the story because they're the ones that we really need to hear from. We don't get to hear from too much. I was really impressed with the students from Enough is Enough. They are the kids in high school and middle school that were tasked with coming up with first answering surveys about gun violence in their communities, and then coming up with solutions and talking with them one-on-one. And I've spoken to plenty of them. They have their own, ideas of what things should look like. They all agree that, we're in school. It's the adults, and they really put the adults in the hot seat. It's the adults that we're looking to protect us. We're in school. We think that we should be safe when we're in the classroom. But we don't feel safe, and we should be safe on the way, going home from school or walking to school, but we don't feel safe. So we're looking to you adults to do something about it. So when we hear from these kids, we really have to think about what they're saying, and we really have to pay attention. And then I also like to talk with kids about their futures. I was able to cover this wonderful ceremony at a hospital where there was a doctor at Crozer Medical Center. He has this program for kids that want to be or that need to be exposed to STEM careers. And the whole thing about, kids in underserved areas is, all they need is exposure. They need exposure. They need something to see something that they don't normally see every day to know that, what, I can be this and I can do that. And, there were kids that talked about, listen, I live in XYZ neighborhood and, there's a lot of gun violence and I want to go to college and I want to be a doctor. And just hearing from these kids, they do have hope. They do have hope. They do have plans. And a lot of them are very motivated and they don't like what they're seeing either. So when we get to talk with them, I just find it so refreshing. I love talking to the youth about everything, gun violence, everything, and their futures.
And you do it so well. I think that's one of the best things, one of my favorite things you do. Your last few stories really kind of moved me.
Yeah, they don't sugarcoat things. the kids don't talk in sound bites and they don't give you famous quotes. They just say, hey, what are you guys doing? We don't feel safe. I don't like this. Yeah, I like the candor.
Who do you consider the experts when you are picking people to come on to your show? Do you consider someone who's been in the field, say 10, 12, 15 years, that'll say, listen, I know what I'm talking about? Or is it that person that has that lived experience? Or is it that person that has said, look, I was a victim, or I was this, or I was that? Who do you consider as an expert? And how do you choose who will come onto the show?
I would say both. I think both are experts in their own right. And, extra points for the expert that's in the community that's experienced it. And that knows the community. Case in point, yourself, when we hooked up with you originally, you were the double, triple threat. You're in the community, you help the community, you understand it, you get it, they know you, you know them. So, the expert, they have their place. And then the people in the community, they're experts too, they have their place. Another thing that I tend to do at press conferences that kind of drive, some representatives or, some people crazy is that, I don't want to talk to the politician. I want to talk to this person over here. No, I'm going over here to talk to the family that lost their son, that's
Right.
getting involved in, efforts to stop this. I already know where you stand. I don't have to talk with you. I mean, I respect our politicians and they have their place, and there are times when we want to talk to them, but I'd rather talk to the people that are being directly affected by things. But everyone, I think both are experts in their own right and have their own place.
I would agree. I'd say all the above. Everyone's got a perspective. The POV, that point of view is really important. Just recently, I interviewed Ron Brown. He was I love this guy. So Smith Park Playground in South Philly, he was the guy to go to. He's a quadriplegic who runs a day camp and runs the entire playground. He had ideas on gun violence. He knew exactly what he thought should happen in his neighborhood. Who better to speak to than the person who's the go-between between the neighborhood, the parents, and the kids? Those are the people we want to talk to, but we also want to talk to those kids. Everybody has something to offer.
What I hear a lot from people in the community is, they don't like certain people that they come into the community, they ask a couple of questions, and then they're gone. They don't like people who are not invested in the community. Are you just here to get a quick story? Or are you here, you really care about what we have to say? And will you be inviting us back? Will you follow up? Will you take my information and allow me to speak more about this? They really don't like the get in, get out. Oh, this is so bad that this happened to you. And then you're in your news truck and you're gone. I hear that a lot from people. I do.
That is so true.
Yeah.
So true. I couldn't have said it.
That's 100% true. And being in victim services for so long, and I had a hand in helping Network of Neighbors form. And the whole purpose of Network of Neighbors was to have the community heal the community. So we don't have people who come into our community that don't look like us, and they come in and they work for a little bit and then they leave. Not saying that they don't have good intentions, but the community is looking like, is this genuine and is this real? So Network of Neighbors is a great crisis response group, and they encourage the community to heal the community when something happens. So then that way they know they're around people that they trust and that they love. So I want to say it is truly an honor to be able just to speak with both of you lovely ladies. And I know we're missing one, but this is great. And this sends a positive message to our young African-American young ladies that the sky is the limit and you can do whatever you set your heart to do. So when we're turning on the news and we're hearing all of these bad things, that's not what Philly is about. Look at these two dynamic, wonderful African-American, powerful women. I take my hat off to you. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. If you grow a little tired, that's okay. My dad always tells me, Melany, take your moment. But after that, it's time to get back up and it's time to fight. So ladies, thank you so much for everything that you are doing. Continue the great work that you are doing. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It is such an honor and a pleasure to speak with wonderful, powerful African-American women that are doing amazing things. They're loving on the people in the communities in the city of Philadelphia. They're genuine and they're true. Remember, the power of one starts with you. Thank you for joining me today.